Sometimes you run across inaccuracies, but I often refer to it in clarifying different personalities, because many times different men or different women have the same name, and sometimes you can only know by context and by your spiritual perception and awareness whether two separate records are actually referring to the same Alexander, or these names that are repeated often. So there you go, just some recommendations for you. But where were we? Those who only had a sense knowledge perspective had given up, resolving to accept whatever consequences happened. The spiritual men did not quit. Paul set the pace with Luke and Aristarchus believing with him. You can imagine them sitting together, praying together, having manifestation of prophecy for edification by way of exhortation and comfort, counseling each other, talking things over. And look at all the hardships Paul, as well as the other two men as well, had lived through, where Father had pulled him through so many hardships. See, this would have built his believing to this mammoth undertaking to keep alive, to stay alive. Just a couple of years before, he went to Jerusalem thinking his life was coming to an end. I thought that was a great perspective that Father flashed in my mind, that he said, I will finish my course. I hadn't thought of that until a couple of nights ago, that Paul thought that would be the end of his life. He didn't call Agabus's prophecy false when he bound his hands with his belt or girdle and said, thus shall they do to you at Jerusalem. He didn't say that's a lie. He accepted it as true. He recognized it as a true revelation. It's just his own mental interpretation of the revelation went a different fork in the road than it should have gone. He should have accepted it as a warning not to go. But in spite of that, he said, I'm ready to finish my course. Well, he knows now his course isn't finished, because God told him by revelation, you're going to witness for me at Rome before Caesar. So he's got that specific incentive to keep moving, to keep moving. Sometimes you need that in life. You need a carrot. You need something ahead of you, a vision. There's a reason to keep moving day by day. Well, tremendous stuff. So Paul was ready for it, even though it took every ounce of his stayed mind believing and his love for God to work through such a terrible scenario. Remember, for 2 weeks they were blown about with no control over the ship. Acts 27:21, but after long abstinence. See, this is word of wisdom at work. He didn't jump up and down and yell and say, I told you we should have never loosed from Crete. The weather was going to be terrible, but you got fooled by that warm breeze that came through. Remember that? They should have been in Crete, waiting out the bad weather under the lee of the island, out of the wind. But they ventured out, love of money. The owner of the ship wanted to get that wheat to Rome. But after long abstinence, Paul stood forth in the midst of them and said, Sirs, showing respect, you should have hearkened unto me. Very bold. And he's not doing this to say, no, I told you so, of course.